late last night, the number had reached about 800. I had spoken to Taliban officials who told me at the time that they expected many more people to end up dead because, of course, not only are they completely cut off from the world, this, we have to remember, is one of the most remote places, not just in Afghanistan, but on the planet. Even when coalition forces, British forces, Americans were in the country for 20 years, it was perhaps one of the hardest places to get to provide security, to get aid to have a system of governance. The Taliban flourished in some of these areas, and so for this now to happen to these people who just don't seem to be able to get a break, natural disaster after natural disaster, the country collapsing to the Taliban government and regime again after the US and allied forces controlled the country for 20 years, and the Afghan government collapsing. And then now to see the lack of resources. It is basically helicopters, Gareth, going to this remote area and trying to evacuate people out because aid agencies can't get there. The humanitarians can't seem to get there. There was flooding in the area just a couple of days before the earthquake struck, landslides. So it's just a miserable situation for so many of these people. And I have to remind our viewers as well that it is the women and girls of Afghanistan who continually suffer the most. So even in this situation, Gareth, you'll find that, the death toll and the number of women and girls who are killed will suddenly spike in a few days' time. And that's because they stay back or they don't try and seek medical assistance first. There aren't any female rescuers on the ground or aid workers on the ground assisting them because many of the Afghan female aid workers have been banned from operating, and doctors have been banned from operating in these places and across the country. So you'll suddenly see, like so many other natural disasters, the number of women and girls impacted will suddenly rise.
It's telling from this footage that we're playing. I don't think as yet, Yalda, I've seen a single woman or girl in any of this footage, kind of testament to the point you're making and the position that the Taliban have put women and girls in Afghan society since 2021. We also spoke earlier to a UNICEF spokesperson in Kabul who kind of talked around the challenges of supporting people in these regions and also the limitations of the Afghan government. And he was quoting a figure of just 4 helicopters currently being used to take aid and carry out those recovery missions. What capacity and how limited is it do the authorities really have? And it strikes me it's worth remembering this is the 3rd major quake in just 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And in each of those major quakes, Gareth, over 1,000 people were killed. So no surprises with the death toll at the moment. I can see some of the footage coming in of the children that you're seeing on one of the national broadcasters in the country, Tolo News, where we've gotten this footage, and you can see some of those children being evacuated on the helicopters. But as you say, I mean, the capacity is so limited already. This is a nation that after the fall of the Afghan government and the evacuation of thousands, tens of thousands of people from the country. And when the US and other forces left the country, they said to the Taliban, fine, you want to overrun the country? Here it is. You run it now, and we will have nothing to do with you. You will be a pariah state. And so over the course of the last 4 years, since August 2021, and don't forget, we've just marked the takeover of the Taliban of Afghanistan. They have faced sanctions because of their human rights abuses of the Afghan people, especially on women and girls, pushing women and girls out of, the society as a whole, not allowing girls to go to school, not allowing women to go to university. And it's in these moments that the Taliban will suddenly realize that, my gosh, we need the support of the international community. We need aid agencies to come here. I was speaking to Taliban leaders yesterday who were making that plea to me. They were saying, we need to get the voice of these poor people stuck in these mud huts in these remote areas. And, I've spoken to aid agencies who say to me, it's like going back to the 6th or 7th century. That is how underdeveloped some of these areas are. because they faced fighting for the longest time, and now, really difficult to get to. And the international community has more or less said to the 40 million Afghans, this is the government now of the country. We don't believe in the values that they're imposing on you, and therefore we are imposing sanctions, and the country is now left with nothing.
Yalda joining us live this morning. Thank you so much.